In this interesting hand here, again an early position player limps, this time a UTG player. Gets limped on the cutoff and the short stack on the button jams. Actions on us with pocket sevens. How do we proceed? Well, there's a few interesting dynamics here. And the first piece of information is that the player that's limped UTG has been playing 60% of hands. So we can disregard the fact that the very unlikely possibility that they're trapping. We don't really know a lot about the cutoff player that's limped, but you would presume limping behind, generally they're not going to have a very strong hand and they're probably playing something speculatively. Now the button who's jammed only has a rounded M3 stack, but if we call that M3 and then the UTG player say does jam, we'll now probably be forced to call off, which might not necessarily be such a bad thing if they would jam wide, which given how loose they are they might, but what's more likely is the UTG player would call, given they're playing 60% of hands, they're obviously very loose. So rather than have that problem of perhaps potentially calling, because I feel like the sevens are a little bit too strong here to be folding, rather than calling the short stack M3 jam, and then probably the UTG player calling and potentially the cutoff as well, I decide to opt for the more aggressive route here, which is to jam all in and isolate. Now it's a big jam, it's around M20, but we're pretty sure that the cutoff player is going to fold, and as I said, the UTG player, well, he only has around M10ish, and he's been very loose, so I'm expecting he's going to fold the majority of the time. So when you put all that together, I think that's the best play in this spot, especially when we see our opponent has 6 high, but is pretty fly and manages to get the split. Not a bad result with 5-6 when you're facing pocket sevens. So along with the thought process there when facing a limp, you also got to see the isolation play. An M3 jammer on the button in that spot against a couple of limpers is going to have a really wide range, which they did. And with all the limping, blinds, antes, and the M3 jam, it's quite a juicy pot now, and pocket sevens figured to be in very good shape and the best hand most of the time, and it's a good risk to take to pick up a juicy little pot. And one of the key things here was the player tendencies and the stack size. If we had it just called and the UTG player called as well, then the cutoff would probably call. Then when this flop comes, we're in a really bad spot with our sevens, and we'll probably be check folding, because any C-bet will commit us to the UTG limper, since if we had a called pre-flop and he called and the player behind called, well, a C-bet would be virtually the size of his stack because the pot would have become so bloated. So it was better to just jam, keep the hand cleaner, isolate to the wide M3 jammer. Even though we were a little bit deeper, with the information we had, it made sense.